All right, let's take roll.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Godus.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Willman.
Here.
Counselor Hershey.
Yes.
Counselor Kaup.
Here.
Counselor Dem.
Yes.
Counselor Stepp.
Check.
And Counselor Wusso.
Let's all
We have a quorum.
stand, turn to the left. Say the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
One day I will remember to read those back.
No, you can't. You can't because TV.
I do that on purpose.
Just. All right. Nice pivot. Hold on. Any agenda changes or conflicts of interest this evening? All right, seeing none, I will move on to citizens appearing before council. This is for items not appearing on the agenda. Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much. I'm Steve Smith, 63 Airport Road, here this evening on behalf of Glenwood Springs Bicycle Advocates. We have followed closely recent calculations and deliberations over financing for the long-needed bicycle pedestrian underpass at 27th Street. The significant cost increase reported beyond the original estimates puts before the city and its project partners some difficult decisions that we simplify. We also heartily urge you to take whatever measures necessary promptly to proceed with this critical safety improvement and to complete it on schedule this year. The crossing of 27th Street is the most dangerous spot on the most heavily traveled bicycle route in the city. Indeed, this is the most dangerous bicycle spot anywhere in town. Cyclists and others using the Rio Grande Trail must pass through a frightening gauntlet of cars, making 3 separate turning maneuvers that cross the vulnerable trail connection, with drivers in each of those maneuvers focused elsewhere and not on the approaching cyclists. Protecting the crossing of 27th Street from cars, therefore, is the top safety priority supported by our board, based on direct observation, on cyclist interviews in the field, and on research by Colorado Department of Transportation and Oregon for Transportation Authority, and by the city itself. Similarly, 27th Street underpass is ranked number 3 on the City Council's own priority list of large capital transportation projects. And it is the only one of those top 3 that can be completed this year. Large financial decisions always are difficult. This one is one to which the answer is obvious, we believe. Please help this critical project proceed and without delay. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Steve Smith.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, please, Charlie.
I see, just so you know, and I've got some emails on this. I think we're a very important project. We agreed to draft it. We kind of.
Charlie's your.
Oh, sorry.
It is.
Oh, it is.
It is.
So we agreed to pull it off. We're looking for funding. In fact, we talked to our funder earlier this evening, and we're seeking a $6 million grant to try to make that gap. And we're looking, hopefully it's construction next year. And I'm kind of saying because you and several others have brought that up, and I've gotten several emails on that. So we do consider it a priority, and hopefully we'll get that done next year. Yeah.
All right, anybody else from the public like to speak? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain, council comments. Who has some comments? Go ahead, Charlie.
So I'm going to make up for the last couple meetings. I haven't had any. So the first thing I want to do is get a consensus from council, or at least some feedback on it. A couple of years ago, when we finished 7th Street, there was a discussion about whether we close the street or open it at all, or left it closed permanently. We decided to open it, and I brought up at that time, I thought we should close it in the summer months, from like Friday night to Sunday night, and make it more of an open and festival street. And brought it up at the chamber earlier this week, or I guess it was last week, at a meeting, and seemed to have support there. So I'm just trying to get a consensus from council, and if that's the general direction, I'd be happy to go talk to the merchants along there, the restaurants, and make sure they're comfortable with it. And hopefully with that we give the staff direction to do that. I don't think Deborah would be a lot of time. They'd have to have somebody go out on Friday, put the bollards up, at each end of it, you know, at Colorado and at Cooper, and that's really all you we'd have to do, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it would be horrendously, I don't think it would be a problem. It's just what council would like to do.
All right. Yeah, I have other things, but if you guys want to talk about them before.
I would just say, and I mentioned this to you, Charlie, when we talked about it earlier, that I think that I would love to see a recommendation from the DDA before I'd feel comfortable acting on it. But
Yeah.
that's just me.
And I meant to bring it up with them this week, forgot to, so.
I would just say that initially, I would not support that, not for the whole weekend. I'd rather see us close it just in the evenings, but I think it's working really well to have slow traffic through there, and there are a lot of reasons to have the access for the cars. So I guess barring any other recommendation, I would not support that at this time.
Hello?
Did we close it last year because of COVID and everything else? I can't remember. We did
didn't do
not close
We
it
did
last
do
year.
it for 1920, just or 20 and 21 because of COVID, yes.
That's what I was, thank you. I think asking the DDA and asking the businesses is going to be very important.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess, Charlie, not to take it away from you, but I would say if the DDA would survey their own businesses, their own membership, and make that recommendation, if the chamber wants to do it as well, but I think the DDA is more what I'm interested in anyway. Do you think they'd have an interest in making a recommendation?
I'll talk to Christian.
Okay.
I meant to do, we had a meeting this week and I was thinking about during the meeting, we'd start talking about something else and I forgot. So it's my fault. I didn't talk to them. So,
I'm okay with special events.
okay.
Anything else, Charlie?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. John and I were talking before, as we're having dinner here tonight, and just to remind you all, the Colorado Municipal League has their conference. They're going to be back in Breckenridge this year. That's where they were the first year that I was on council. It was a really good conference. I think the various programs they have are just phenomenal. I'm going to be there through most of the conferences. You guys have asked me to or approved me running for boards. I need to be there for that purpose. So I'll be there during all that. I did see a note. I have a CML board meeting in Denver tomorrow, and I did see a note in the packet that hotel space is filling up. So if you're interested, you should let Sarah, was great helping me. I'll get that all arranged. So if you're interested, let Sarah know and she'll help you get there.
Charlie, can I just interject real quick on that point?
Yeah.
I'd really encourage people to go to that. I probably should go to that as well. I have been twice and it was really great. And not that to exclude anybody with this, but I think especially, Marco and Ingrid, if you're able to, and Paul, you probably just because oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
But it is a great thing. And I had it in the back of my mind.
So I guess maybe let Deborah know very soon is
Yeah.
what we're hearing. If that's something we want to do. And I, for one, would
Yeah.
echo Charlie. Very
You'll be able to
strongly
get
agree.
hotels. You just won't be, you'll have to probably drive in and back and forth to get there to the
Well,
conference.
you and Marco and I can all share.
Yeah, that's right. So.
The room or the car?
The room, you got the rollaway, new kid.
All right, I have one other matter and I went back and actually looked at our meeting from January 20th and I watched the council presentation and staff had brought to us the idea of extending the Piff at the Meadows for, I think it was 15 years, it started in 2025. And I rewatched the presentation today because I brought the matter up with Carl because the motion was to bring it back in 60 days. And of course, that's passed and that's fine. I'm not complaining about that, but I think it's an important enough project that we should do it. And for those that I mentioned a little bit to Marco before the meeting, the concept it would be is it would be reduced, purely 25 was supposed to go away to 1 cent rather than 1.5. But the city would get $5 million toward the roads out there, which are in terrible condition. So I would ask that we put that on an agenda in the near future. Is that comfortable enough in the near future?
Yeah, I think so. And I can also send out a little bit of a written update for council as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that happened last time, Carl, you even mentioned during the meeting, I'd forgotten, is we just didn't kind of have that summary. There was a lot of question about numbers. And I remember I was sitting at my desk at home trying to do numbers and I had a lot more money. They were really thrilled with my number, but it was the wrong number. So,
Yeah. So let me get a written update out and we can go from there.
I just think, I don't even know if they're still interested, and maybe there's someone else to find out if the ownership's interested. But I think it's a good thing for the city personally. So I think we need to at least take action on it because we deferred action. That's all I have.
Thanks, Charlie. Who's next? Charlie got my CML one. I'll just say, oh, Steve Smith left. A bill just recently passed authorizing municipalities to be able to adopt, I believe, if we so elect to, it's called the Idaho Stop. And it allows bicyclists at signalized intersections to look both ways, but to continue to go through. And it's been shown, studies and data have shown this is actually much safer for cyclists and the vehicular public as well. I don't know why that is, because it sounds, Tony, I'm looking at it like, that sounds crazy, but that's what they say. So I would love for I don't take a vote, but if, I think I've copied the Transportation Commission folks on, if they would take a look at that, because I do it anyway. So I would love for me to actually fall within the bounds. Yeah.
Chief Doug over had to follow.
That's all. Oh, and
And I wasn't clear, just a question on that. Since the state adopted that, do we need to adopt it, each municipality, or
Yeah,
is
I
it
think we would need
statewide?
to, so we, you'll recall, not that long ago, we went through updating the model traffic code and adopting it with
Mhm.
local amendments. We would need to update that to adopt that additional regulation
Okay.
that the state adopted.
Thanks.
I'll just have one other thing. This probably should go under correspondence, but I'd like to read it now just because at the beginning of the meeting. Dear City Council and other powers that it may be from the city, my family and I would like to express our sincere gratitude for your support towards the 5% pay increase. From our end, we appreciate all that you do and the time that you give back to the community. I feel so fortunate to be in a place of employment where I am so supported and where I truly love my job. With much appreciation, the Lindenbergs, Tiffany, Dave, Hazen, and Ella. The Lindenbergs, Dave Lindenberg is a principal at Silvers Elementary, and Tiffany is our fitness coordinator. Yeah.
One is that hold on, I'm getting there. One is that I shared, or I asked Deborah to share with you a letter that I received from Cindy Svatos, who runs the downtown market. And it's Cindy expressing some concerns with some fee increases that we have unilaterally applied to the city, and questioning whether or not we could look at her downtown market and see if there's an exception that can be made or something along those lines. With that in mind, I think it was an agenda item that we didn't talk about.
That was the, where she parked the.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
they-
not the fees.
Exactly. So they were on the schedule though, and then it got remedied. So I'm wondering if we could either one, put it back on there, or two, one option that I talked to Charlie about is that we could, Counselor Hershey, this is a big deal to a community member.
Just have a conversation about that.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna ask you guys if you'd be receptive in giving her a 1-year kind of grandfathered opportunity to pay the same fees as last year and give her an opportunity to become like maybe a nonprofit, but for the downtown market as the organization. So I don't know if you guys want to have a work session on it, or you want more info on it, or you want to put it on a future agenda item, but I want to bring it to our attention.
I think, at least from my perspective, I've had 5 years on the finance committee where we've
Mhm.
asked her to provide it.
Mhm.
Evidence that she's a nonprofit, because she's always submitting as a nonprofit, and
Yeah.
she never did, never has, and now she's just given up the even idea of even being a nonprofit. So I think the idea of extending her so that she can show nonprofit status after 5 years, I don't have faith that she would do that.
It would be just kind of this very firm parameter to allow her an opportunity to create that and continue a tradition. She said her budget, and maybe this is maybe more than anything, what I should do is bring it to our attention, and then at a future agenda item, we can discuss it more at length. I hate to have counselor comments turned into dialogues. But I wanted to bring it to your attention, read the letter, and then maybe we can all proceed accordingly. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, can you forward that? Did we get it forwarded onto us?
She's going to now.
I just forwarded it to you and included Brian and the normal people I include when I send you guys emails.
I guess I wouldn't mind putting that on a future agenda as a regular agenda
Okay,
discussion item. I would ask staff to give kind of a summary of maybe the fees that have been paid the last few years. if possible, just
I
to
don't
know
believe Cindy
what's-
has paid fees for years.
Okay. and
So
what's-
that
is
could be
there a
included.
Difference in fees, yeah,
Yeah,
just so that we understand what we're
Okay.
talking about
okay.
financially.
And if you could also include in that, when we have that on the agenda, any other for-profit businesses that could also benefit from getting a fee reduction for a year.
I don't know if I can do that because I would think it would be all for-profit
I
businesses.
think that's what his point was, but thank you.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Your point was at least received by me. And my last thing is a much more somber note, and that is that in yesterday, I think it was yesterday's Post Independent, there was a quick letter from a 17-year-old here in our community expressing some concern for mental health concerns and just issues that he sees within our community. I want to ask and also see if you guys are all comfortable with me kind of, we don't have a mental health council or commission, but I really care deeply about this subject. And if you guys are all comfortable with me kind of being a representative of casual sorts where I maybe connect with these people, I've kind of been doing it already, but I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. You're comfortable with that? Okay. Okay.
Me too.
Okay.
Me too. What is that? What would that entail though? I
What
mean,
that would entail is that, and Deborah's already brought me into quite a few different conversations, but like tonight, Aspen Hope Center and some of the, the school resource counselors and things along those lines.
We've been developing pretty good relationships, of course, with USON and the school
Mhm.
district in those, and Ingrid has joined me for some of those conversations. So I imagine it would be along those lines. I know USON is also very interested and it'd be a much bigger regional conversation about creating almost like a strike team for kids, which of course we could not fund on our own. It would be like $500,000. But I think the concern for mental health in youth is very real and very present right now.
Yeah, I'd love for you to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like you to do that also and
Okay.
appreciate, and I would offer also to be part of that.
Okay.
The one thing I would like to see on that is, it seems like we have a lot of crisis response type teams, but I'm looking more, as we discussed a few years ago with our marijuana tax revenue, is having some like programs that help teens build resilience and build more of a preventative side, catching it up front.
I think,
And so
yeah,
I'm really interested in that side of it, is what can we build into our community to strengthen and support our youth and, and as they develop into young adults.
so what I'm hearing from Shelley is exactly what my concern is, that we have some reactionary measures in place, but I want to see some proactionary measures. And what can we do on the forefront to prevent the concern and the crisis level that I think we're at this point?
And I would just ask council, keep in mind that, we don't have staff that are dedicated to this. So what you get is me in my free
Yeah.
time and you guys. So I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like I can definitely encourage us funding initiatives and encouraging conversations, but I just
Mhm.
want to temper everybody's expectations.
No, but we don't have a department on that.
We do not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for
Thanks.
entrusting me with that.
Thanks for volunteering. Paula.
This kind of tags team to it, what Ingrid was speaking about with our youth in our community. And I've just done some preliminary conversations with Brian, very preliminary on activities for kids. We have nothing in this town. And I think that's part of this mental health problem is we don't even have a movie theater. But one of the things that I'd look at or bring back to council, and Deborah knows that I asked Brian about this of, do we expand our skate park? Do we do other activities like that where kids can get engaged? And it's so preliminary on my end. I was hoping to bring it back and say, let me find more information and bring it back to council and talk with Brian and maybe the rec commission. But I'd love to find some opportunities for young people and what they can do when we're talking 12 to 18 years old. There's just nothing here in this town other than if you're a mountain biker or a paddler. I mean, just kind of that casual things to go on. So this is so preliminary, but I had to tag it on because I think that's part of mental health. So I just wanted you guys to know that I was kind of looking at that in the background.
Thanks, Paula. Tony?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Although I just want to remind you, remember when you and Shelley were Just with this downtown market, when you and Shelley on council and you wanted to put it, or Cindy wanted to put it across the street in my neighborhood, I wasn't on council, there was a letter. So I'm just gonna, you don't remember, but I just don't feel comfortable participating with her because of her attitude towards me and her abuse.
Okay. Thanks, Tony. With that, is there a motion for approval of consent agenda? Been moved by Counselor Kopp, seconded by Counselor Will. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No,
Motion carries 6-1. All right, now we have proclamation of Wildfire Awareness Month.
what?
Wildfire awareness.
Oh, thank you.
You are the fire
Yeah. Has anybody else been affected by fire? Anybody?
I don't like fire. I had, you had COVID because you had too big. What?
Yeah.
Oh, coded.
You come up here.
I got the work product to you on time.
You stand here on this square. A little more like stagehand, right? All right. This is a proclamation for Wildfire Preparedness Month, May of 2022. I'm presenting to Gary Tillotson, our chief, because, well, you keep us safe, and Gary is on it when these things happen in our community. We really want to thank you on behalf of council, on behalf of the city, for all the work you guys do. Let's get to it. Whereas 20 of Colorado's largest wildfires have occurred within the last 20 years. 4 out of the 5 largest fires in state history have occurred in the last 3 years. And whereas the most destructive fire in state history occurred just 4 months ago, almost doubling the amount of homes lost than the previous record. And whereas the top 5 most destructive fires in state history have occurred in the last 10 years. And whereas climate change, drought, and continued development of wildland-urban interface have made wildfire mitigation a top priority for Glenwood Springs Rural Fire Protection District. And whereas Wildfire Preparedness Month is focused on encouraging residents to learn about wildfire safety and take steps to reduce wildfire risk in and around their homes. Now, therefore, I, Jonathan Godis, Mayor of the City of Glenwood Springs, do hereby proclaim May Wildfire Preparedness Month in the year 2022. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Gary.
The record, this is a pretty much multi-county wide process. Most every fire district in the region is doing a similar proclamation to declare May as wildfire preparedness. Thank you. Thank you, Gary.
It's yours.
It's mine.
Oh, wait, here, let me sign.
You sign.
I did.
Why?
All right, Transportation Commission appointments.
I'd like to make a motion.
Did
I
I miss the consent agenda?
You did.
Sorry, I
It's
was,
okay.
You weren't paying it.
6-1.
thank you.
I think you've all had a chance to read Ray Alexander's application in our packet this week. Ray Alexander, for those of you, I don't think the application indicated, but he runs our road and weather Facebook, our local road and weather Facebook page. And I think that was a missing piece that makes me very comfortable and confident in making a motion to appoint him as, is it an alternate or a
Second.
yeah, except, thank you. Thank you so much. Whatever position it was.
Staff recommendation, just fall back on that.
Yeah, totally.
It's been moved by Counselor Wusso, seconded by myself. Further comment or all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we have online visiting us this evening is the Aspen Hope Center.
That doesn't look like that.
They're having a bad hair day.
Should be Michelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michelle Muthine, last one.
Does she have to be brought over?
There we go.
She's the best.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for allowing me time to speak with you. And it seems like it's a very serendipitous evening that I'm here listening to the quote from the letter to the editor this morning. I read it myself and went, this is interesting. But in your packets, you received some information. The Hope Center has been in existence for 12 years, and our main focus when we opened was to be a crisis agency. And in the last 5 years, we have worked really hard getting upstream. And I'm listening to some of your conversations about prevention efforts and how to really reach these kids in a more strategic way upstream, rather than just being the 911 crisis for mental health. And truth be told, you will always need an ambulance. You will always need mental health crisis clinicians, but that's why we have wellness fairs and we try to get up in physical health. We do the same in our mental health. In the packet that you have, it has 2 different items. One of them is our annual report. And that annual report gives an overall of what we have accomplished in the year 2021. Coming out of a pandemic, it was still a very tough year. And then the second piece of information you have is specific to Glenwood Springs. The Aspen Hope Center covers Aspen to Parachute as a footprint, and we respond in those areas for crisis fatality response during deaths like the Glenwood Caverns death. And then we also have our school-based program, and our school-based program is our upstream preventative program. And so far we are in 12 schools with 12 clinicians, and that is expanding almost by the month. The Garfield County schools that we cover is Roaring Fork High School and then all of our Glenwood schools. So the information specifically to Glenwood is on those 2 pieces of paper, or specifically, I'm sorry, to Garfield County is on those 2 pieces of paper. And it is our crisis response information that is in this data sheet for you. There are the graphs. And then the second page gives you a little bit of detail, but I don't know if anyone has had any time to review this ahead of time before I highlight what's important to me. Does anyone have questions about any of that that I can focus on with what's important to you?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Johnny.
So as far as the kids that you're reaching at the schools, I know reading that letter, but I've also heard from some of our Hispanic community that maybe they're not as represented and that the focus isn't on them. How are you reaching, particularly in the Basalt schools, but that would be true in Glenwood and Carbondale, of course, too?
Absolutely. So the biggest challenge we have in the field of mental health is finding bicultural, multicultural clinicians. And it is not out of lack of trying, it is out of lack of them existing. So funny that this comes up tonight, because literally it has been our strategic plan since the beginning of the year. We have 2 new Spanish-speaking staff that we added. And with our school program literally tripling in size in the year 2021, the feedback we are hearing from our school-based clinicians is we need more assistance to help engage the families. The families are a unit. The families are a system. Kids are not freestanding on their own. And so one of the things we are actually looking to add this coming school year is a bilingual case manager who can help each of the clinicians. And we are thinking we will put the first person in the Glenwood school systems, because we will have a clinician in Sopris Elementary, Glenwood Springs Elementary, Glenwood Middle, and 2 clinicians at Glenwood High School. So with that being our most robust placement of our clinicians, we're going to pilot someone there who can help and work past school hours into the evenings and choose hours on weekends to be able to meet with families, as we know that sometimes it's difficult to catch up with them during the day. We have to be creative and meet them when they are home. So that is going to be a pilot that we start in August, particularly with our Glenwood schools.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. And I just want to be able to highlight the need for the increase of continued services. Like I said, I've heard that in so many places as we go. We are working so closely with the police departments down I-70, the hospital, and our kids. I heard someone say earlier, our kids are really in need. I don't know that I can underscore or emphasize that enough. If you look in our annual report, our crisis response, as much as we want to get upstream, we had 137% increase in the number of crisis response to children who were 11 and younger. And that is an astounding increase. In the last 4 days, we have done over 12 crisis evaluations with our youngsters. And this is a huge increase we are seeing everywhere. And the money is coming. There's money all over the place to be able to put these programs in place. I will keep you informed with what we continue to do, as we have recognized, like I said several years ago, that the upstream prevention is most important with our little kids. The balance is our school system is an educational system, and we can't keep pulling them out of school and dedicating school time to mental health information. There has to be a balance on how we present mental health skills, socio-emotional learning skills, with the education that they so desperately need and have been backlogged on with being online. So I will keep you informed with what we do, but one of our deepest and most treasured relationships is with the RE1 school district. And we are working very, very closely with Amanda Vaughn and the new Family Resource Center out that covers RE2. The work that is going to be coming in the next 12 to 18 months with our school program and partnership. Someone mentioned Youth Zone. We work very closely with Youth Zone, Stepping Stone, and Carbondale Family Resource Center. We are sitting around the table, putting our heads together, saying, how can we do better for our kids? So I will keep you posted on how that all comes out.
Great. And then
I
Paula.
did. Thank you, Michelle, so much. Oh, thank you for the work you do, and thank you for coming this evening. Will you also keep us abreast of what other communities are doing? I mean, if you hear some brilliant idea that Carbondale is doing, or Basalt, or some other community, share that with us. I mean, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can definitely take a page out of someone else's book.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and also, you know, we have our community center for educational opportunities and things like that. If, you know, if there's opportunities for parents to be educated about some of these things, we'd love to partner with you.
That would be wonderful. And I think it was you who said you would like to volunteer to kind of be that point person for the mental health.
Yeah.
My email, Deb has my email. If you are able to connect with me, I will do that. And I will say again, I don't know, and I can go on and on and on, so I'm going to stop after this, but the landscape in the state of Colorado was shifting so rapidly. The state agencies are turning upside down. The way mental health is going to be distributed, the way payment is going to be distributed is upside down. I am up in Denver and on meetings very frequently. The Hope Center is being asked to take on very different roles than it has ever had in the past because the needs are so great. And I have the great fortune of being able to not only know the Roaring Fork Valley and my partners, our partners like the back of my hand, but we set up a crisis team in Gunnison, and I'm watching what Gunnison does. I'm sitting in a hotel room in Gunnison right now. Which is why I'm not there. I'm so sorry. We helped San Miguel and the Telluride area. I went to Mesa County. I do have that ability to see what other places are doing. And you're speaking my language. I am not a queen of reinventing the wheel. I want to see what works and how it works and just put it to the backdrop of what our community is with our culture and values and landscape. And we will see what works best. And I will continue to bring that forward 100%.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the work you do for our community.
You are so welcome. Thank you so very much. And thank you for the support you give to our town.
Paula.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Wait, I have a
Oh,
question.
wait. Yes. I could sit here all night long.
We're not letting you go. We're not letting you go in any respect because of what you're doing is so important. But I do have a question because having some previous experience in association with Youth Zone, I'm aware of this, and it feels like, and you're probably hearing this in the conversations I'm seeing in your report, that everything gets related back to COVID as a huge component of this increase in crisis. What other things are they talking about that might be attributing to this? I'm just trying to get a sense beyond COVID. What
Yes.
other things that might be happening right now that is impacting our youth?
So I'll
and
speak to
adults?
two main things, particularly about youth. The Children's Hospital put out an article last summer, and it really threw everyone in a tizzy. I met with our fire departments and police departments talking about this article, but the article spoke about the rise of acute crisis we're seeing in our kids and the increase in inpatient hospitalizations that we are seeing with our youth. The Hope Center has a stabilization program that we created when we opened 12 years ago, and the point of the program was to keep all individuals out of inpatient facilities. Our philosophy is that is not how you heal someone. It's a duck in a mud puddle and nothing more. You have to go through the social determinants of health to help them. When that article came out, I met with our school-based clinicians, I met with our crisis clinicians, and I said, so the world says we have an increase in crisis with our kiddos. What are you seeing? They acknowledged that they felt that was true, but they said, we don't think our youth are all of a sudden all wanting to kill themselves. What they noticed was in an assessment where we meet with an adolescent, typically we can safety plan. We simply meet with the adolescent, we put a safety plan in place, we figure out what resources in the community are necessary, and then we shift our focus to the parents. And we say, okay, now the safety plan we're going to need is this. We're going to set them up with therapy at no cost to you. It will be for the next 7 days. Here is what we need to do. And the parents are looking at us saying, I don't have the bandwidth to keep my child safe. Ergo, we are hospitalizing children because parents are too taxed. So it's a twofold picture we are noticing in the world of crisis when it comes to the kiddos having more issues. But the second piece that I wish I could wave a magic wand and fix is social media. And that is something none of us have the ability to do away with or to solve the issue. And social media is where our kids are gaining access to things at such a young age that you and I never had access to. They are hearing things they never heard before, and they are talking to each other, and the level of bullying goes up tremendously because of social media. How to curtail that, I don't even begin to pretend to know.
Thank you.
You are so
Thanks,
welcome.
Michelle. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you coming in tonight. We appreciate all the work you do. Thank you for helping our community.
Thank you very, very much. Have a wonderful evening. Take care, and I'll be back.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next on the agenda is a presentation from the Colorado Public Interest Research Group. Coprig. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Is this Alexandria? Yeah, there you are.
She can correct me.
I should know. I put it on the agenda.
Colorado Public Interest
Research.
Group, COPIRG.
Hey,
Hello.
hi.
Hi, Alex. How you doing?
Great, great. Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks for having me here tonight. My name's Alex Simon, advocate with the COPIRG, not that snazzy of a name, but we live with it. The Colorado Public Interest Research Group, and we're a statewide advocacy group that works on transportation, public health, and consumer rights issues. I'm here to talk to you about EVs tonight. I have a few slides. Is it easiest if I just share my screen?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, let's do that. Hold on one second. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, I'm here again to talk about this program called Go EV City, which is really a program that asks cities and local governments to help accelerate the transition to local transportation. We're part of a coalition, the Go EV City Coalition, that's co-PERG alongside the Sierra Club, Conservation Colorado, SWEEP, the Southwest Energy Efficiency Project, and CLEAR, the Clean Energy Economy for the region. You may remember my colleague Stefan Johnson with CLEAR came and gave a presentation on the Go EV program about a year ago. And Mayor Godis and I had a meeting last month, and I mentioned it again. He thought it might be a really good fit with a lot of the climate and electrification actions Glenwood Springs is already undertaking, and invited me back to do a really short, just like 5-minute refresher on the program. So I am here, but what we would like is for you, the Glenwood Springs City Council, to sponsor a resolution that would commit to 100% electrification by 2050. And I'll dive in just briefly a little more about what that means. So again, to become a Go EV City, you would make a commitment, a resolution to be 100% zero emission transportation by 2050 or sooner, if you're feeling ambitious. To achieve that, cities develop an EV action plan that has intermediary steps and priorities over the next 20 or 30 years. And we really want the scope for this to be visionary and include all transportation. So municipal fleets, local transit agencies, school district, taxis, Uber, Lyfts, and all passenger vehicles. And again, I want to stress that this isn't a program that mandates that you need to have a plan today in 2022 to electrify every vehicle. It's really a commitment to going electric as those options become available and feasible, and starting to plan your community and your municipal agencies based on those assumptions. So some of the benefits, we see for, making this commitment to zero emission transportation, really having cities step up as leaders not only helps accelerate the pace of the transition to going electric, but more importantly, it really signals to the public in your communities and businesses that EVs have arrived and they are here and they're the future. It helps shows businesses and community leaders that they have a public partner and public support in the transition of their business fleets and private vehicles. And also electrifying transportation can help reduce inequities. Air pollution disproportionately affects communities located close to major highways. So going electric can offer some of the greatest benefits to those historically marginalized areas. What does it mean to be a part of the Go EV Coalition? There's me with an electric school bus. I'm really excited about that. We love to highlight the commitment and progress from our Go EV cities via social media and press releases. It's Earth Week right now, as I'm sure you're aware, Earth Day tomorrow. So we're doing like a big tweet storm with all our Go EV cities. We're picking like a program or an accomplishment to highlight and all tweeting about it. Like some of the things, just to give you some examples of what we've been tweeting about this week, like Boulder has a really cool bi-directional charging pilot program at one of their rec centers where they're using one of their EVs as like battery storage to reduce peak demand from their building. That's pretty cool. We've also been tweeting about Vail and Avon are doing like a regional e-bike share program that they're launching next month. And Denver is launching some financial incentives for e-bikes. So that's just some examples of like some new things that Go EV cities are currently doing. We're also happy to support your EV action plan with policy recommendations and connect you to like technical expertise in state or like across the country. We currently have 10 Go EV cities here on this slide. We would love to welcome Glenwood Springs to be the 11th. It would be really great to expand the program geographically in the state and see a commitment to electric vehicles expand westward. And happy to answer any questions today or in the future. If you have any questions about the program or electric vehicles in general, we're here to help. And you can feel free to contact me, or I think if some of you know Stefan, because I know he's pretty active in this region, you can feel free to reach out to him as well. And that's all. I was given 5 minutes, so I want to keep it short.
Thank you, Alex. We appreciate it. Go ahead, Tony. Alex.
Alex, just a quick question. I know that electric vehicles are making a yard leap. That school bus you've shown, I never saw one before. Is it converted or is it built from scratch, or how do they do that?
That one is a new electric school bus. It was bought with money from the Volkswagen settlement money that's actually expired now, but that's a new bus. I have to see what's that one. I think it's built by Bluebird. And that's one that the Denver Public Schools just received. So
Cool,
it was
thank
really cool. We did a press release to bring some attention. There's a state bill that'll have $65 million potentially to fund electric school buses across the state in Colorado. So we did a big press release with the school bus to try to draw attention to electric school buses and in support of the bill.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was cool. They're very quiet.
Hi, Alexandra. Thank you for being here. I have a question as far as supporting an EV action plan. Do you guys have like kind of sample templates for development of a fleet changeover program and things like that to go along with setting a goal for the city?
Yeah, we definitely do, because we have some EV action plans from some of our other cities. I can't speak directly as to whether there's information about, how specific they get about fleet transition, but I'd be happy to send some of those over. And I'll take a look and see what I can highlight around, any kind of fleet transition information.
Okay. And is there also collaboration between the other Go EV cities in the state as far as what they're doing? I'm really interested in what you mentioned in Boulder as far as having the bi-directional charging, because with city having its own municipal electric, that could make a lot of sense for us.
Yeah, there is. We have done some, like in the past, we did a webinar where we had different speakers from each city come together. And that was a little more for the public, but we're also starting to have a series of like working groups with representatives from the cities and kind of coming up with different topics or questions for each group, and then having kind of people with technical expertise from that city come together. And so that's something we're hoping to do a little more regularly to let the Go EV cities kind of tap into, especially some of the more technical knowledge and decisions that are coming up as they go through the process.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Deborah, I have a question for you. If we did something like this, is it something that we, given the amount of time involved, that we can budget for and do it a normal replacement of fleet?
I will try to channel my inner Matt.
You can't talk that long.
I know. His main concern was just, will the equipment be there that we need? And I think, other than that, there's not a real concern. I don't think it's a real budget concern. It's just by 2050, and the answer could be yes. Will there be trucks sufficiently enough to move snow that we need to move or to? So, I mean,
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
it's just a matter of how quickly does the technology catch up? Not really a money issue.
Well, I just want to make clear as well, it's not just electric, it's zero emission. This is what we're signing on for. So it could be hydrogen, it could be, other forms. So, just because it doesn't exist today, I don't know that we actually have a schedule of replacement for 30 years out, right? So like if we were to buy something and budget for it now, I mean, I think that's a great question about budgeting, but I don't think we have to. Steve Boyd's not here to give me that evil eye either. Good. But I don't think we're going to be budgeting for anything that by 2050 would need to be replaced or wouldn't be replaced by 2050.
Cars only last like 5 to 6 years if you're lucky, like if they're not police cars.
Have you seen my car?
We drive them differently.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ingrid.
My question is, could we incorporate a dialogue about this concept into our environmental action plan that's been kind of pushed off a little bit into the future, and just kind of group it together and make that pact, but do it with some substance instead of just like throwing it out there? Because I think they marriage well.
With the climate action plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I guess I would say this is just a pledge.
Yeah.
I don't know this binding.
But I think
Sure.
to do
No,
this.
I'm not going to come after you in 2050 for the pledge. It is a pledge you could do. Of our 10 participating Go EV cities and counties, 8 just passed a resolution and 2 baked it into like an EV or a climate, like a larger electric vehicle or environmental action plan. So either way works well.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I would be supportive of making a pledge simply for the reason that it would fit well when we go to work on our broader climate action plan update. but also because we do have our own municipal electric, there's a lot of potential there to integrate that as we transition the transportation sector. And I think right now we, I haven't seen that we have a lot of action going in that direction. For example, of what some of the things that Holy Cross Energy is doing as far as promoting energy battery packs and chargers for homes and things like that. So I think we could do more in that area, and making a pledge like this could help us work towards that.
So I guess, is there support to put this on a future agenda for adoption? Because we're not, this is just a presentation right now. There's an ordinance that goes along, ordinance? What?
We
Resolution.
would just bring it back
Resolution.
on consent unless you wanted to do a big to-do with it.
Okay. Is there support to bring it back at least on a consent agenda? Okay.
Thank you.
Alexander, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thanks for all you guys are doing across the state, and appreciate the presentation this evening.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And did it get put on the consent agenda?
It did, yes.
Cool. It was a little hard to see on the screen, but that's awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your evening.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, ordinance. We're almost there. We're almost there, my friend. All right, ordinance, number 15, ordinance 2022-15, impact fees.
There's a lag. There it is.
What's that?
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm here this evening to present ordinance 2022-15, the fire impact fees. The background of this item is that we had a member of the Rural Fire Protection Board ask us some questions related to the fire impact fees, and we determined that the formula for our fire fees had been inadvertently left out of the land use code when we did the redraft in 2018. So it said something like, the fee shall be calculated as follows, : and so
Jinx.
so we believe it's a scrivener's error, but we also thought it was enough time that it needed to come back through the process. So that is why we're here. And we went to Planning Commission in March to talk about this, and they made a recommendation to put the formula back into the code. So there's a resolution that sets the price, the fee, but there's this ordinance that sets the kind of how much of an EQR are all of these various uses. And we also discovered in doing this research that there was some discrepancy related to how we charge for the EQRs for accessory dwelling units. And just to back up a little bit, fire fees are one of several system improvement fees that are charged to new and renovated developments to cover the cost of connecting to or receiving services from city utilities and emergency services. So in researching this item, staff found that there was this discrepancy. The signed copy of the ordinance from 2016 sets the fire fees for an accessory dwelling unit at 0.65 of the fee that would be equivalent to a single family residential unit. However, the spreadsheet that we've been using since 2016, since before I came onto the city, and before, Hannah, who's like our EQR expert, came to the city, we've been calculating them at 0.25 for all of this time. And we were absolutely unable to determine why. And so we brought that to the attention of the Planning Commission. They made a recommendation to put the fire fees back in with the formula from 2016 with the 0.25, which we have been charging since that time. And This item is a technical fix. We think it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. When you're considering this type of change to the code, you have to consider whether and to what extent the following is consistent with a comprehensive plan and other city policies, whether it conflicts with other provisions of the code, whether it's necessary to address a demonstrated community need, is necessary to respond to substantial changes in conditions in our policy, and whether it's consistent with the general purpose and intent of the code. And so just to talk about a little bit about that, the difference between the 0.25 and the 0.65 in terms of EQRs, a full EQR is 1375, and the 0.25 would be 343 and change, and the 0.65 is 893. So I cannot explain how this happened, but the planning commission did recommend that we keep it at the 0.25, but that we revisit the need to go back and do a rational nexus study for all of the system improvement piece, but in particular the fire piece. And that's the code change considerations. And with that, I'm open to any questions that you may have. The fire chief is here if you have any questions for him about the accessory dwelling unit.
Anybody? Seeing none, we'll turn to the public for public comment. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for a motion or further discussion. Charlie.
I move that we approve ordinance 22-15 and adopt the findings in the staff report at page 2.
Second.
It's moved by Council Wilman, seconded by Councillor Hershey. Thank you, sir. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Jen.
It's an ordinance.
Oh, yeah, do we have to do a vote?
Oh. Okay.
I like. It's again, it's so exciting.
It's kind of like the fun part of the evening.
It is.
I just wanted to be involved tonight.
Want Ryan to sit there all night.
Ryan would fall asleep over there.
Shelley.
There we go.
We have something like this at the legislature. They do. Right?
Yeah, I think they do the big board.
With the board, but it's all electronic.
It's unanimous.
Way to earn the paycheck, Ryan.
7-0.
All right. You don't get overtime. All right. Report from city manager, city attorney.
I think I just wanted to remind you, there is something under correspondence in case you guys forget.
Yes.
I
What is
did-
it?
The letter you asked for me to get on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
I think that is my official report.
We need to act on that letter?
I think more than likely, or actually not more than likely, I guess, I think our suggestion is that if it has regional support and support from CDOT, that absolutely we'd be supportive, or that would be your position. You know, regionalism has been so critical to these large transportation projects. I think that's a good idea.
But I just want to say that this is just exploring options. It's not committing to anything. Whatever your political stripes are, you know, this is our representative and she's trying to fix a problem that I think, sorry. She's trying to fix a problem that really affects this entire area. And when I-70 closes, like someone said, don't come here. I'm just kidding. But people will make a decision not to come here and they'll go somewhere else. There are other choices. And and Shelley, you're correct. It's a huge impact. So all this does is explore different options. I agree with Carl 120%. This is a regional decision, but let's look at options and maybe there are no options, but it doesn't hurt to look, and it's federal, you know, the federal government paying the bill to look is my point. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Anything else? All right.
You don't need a motion for that or anything?
I need a motion to adjourn.
No, for the letter.
If there's if the desire, I'll make a motion. How about this? I'll make a motion. I motion that we work with our regional partners, CDOT, and the federal government to advance any and all discussions for alternative transportation routes in the event of extreme weather conditions.
Would you include the congressman voter in that?
All of our congressional delegations.
And
Yes.
that which would, so that is a letter of support for this.
No, it's not
No,
actually.
It's a piece in the a motion to move forward.
But
on
it
But
says
it's one piece. It's not in its entirety. Am I interpreting that correctly?
That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll make a second on that, but I think that the rationale behind seconding it is because I inadvertently, because we very rarely have correspondence, I missed this letter. And so I am just now seeing it and I've not had a chance to read it. My apologies. Because more often than not, we don't have a correspondence. And so I kind of just zoom past that. And so I would like the opportunity to read the letter and kind of evaluate where we're at.
Can we bring this letter back then on the 5th?
I actually think that it might behoove us to wait until after our trip to DC, because I think that there's an opportunity for us to visit with people when we're there. And that would more than likely be appropriate, maybe the first meeting in June, if we're going to continue it or have a response.
But I mean, my concern is, Ingrid, that I think this has become political because of Lauren Boebert's name.
So let's not make it political,
Let's
Tony,
not.
and let's just let's push it out long enough for everyone to review it and to get the pieces that everyone else is wanting, but it doesn't have to be political.
But we talked
So-
about this earlier. Whoever
So-
is our, I'm sorry,
So sorry, there's a motion on the table.
but can I
Keep-
comment on the motion?
But you're not. You're commenting
Yes, sir.
about politics.
No,
So
well, I'm happy to comment on the motion.
let's take this vote, and then if there's another motion
I'm
you would
not
like,
allowed to comment on the motion.
if it's actually about the motion, yes. Is it
I-
about regionalism? Is it about working with CDOT?
Yeah, I
Okay.
would love to work with everybody, including our senators and our congresswomen.
And that's why
our-
my
And the
motion,
director of CDOT, and of course, Governor Polis, who's very supportive of this.
so you'd be supportive of a motion that includes CDOT, the state government, federal government, and our congressional delegation, as stated?
Our congressional delegation includes 2 states, 2 United States senators,
Yes, it does.
Hickenlooper and Bennett, and Congresswoman Lauren Boebert.
And my motion encompasses all of that. Our congressional
Can it say
delegation.
that?
Yes, it does say that. Our congressional
No,
delegation.
he did. I thought he had.
Do I have to spell out every employee of CDOT and the governor's cabinet?
I just think sometimes we want to cut off our nose to spite our face because you don't like her, but that's.
That's
fine.
not true.
Okay.
That's not true, Counselor. Ryan, let's call the question.
It's unanimous.
All
Can
right.
now I ask a question that has to do with the motion?
Yes.
If her chief of staff asks, are we supportive of her bill or not?
I think we tell them that in 5 weeks, we're going to be able to give them a response.
Okay.
Just doing a little due.
Why don't you
diligence,
do that
just-
then,
yeah,
Ingrid? Okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
Mayor, oh, look, it's already 30 minutes later. I don't have a presentation.
But it's not 7:30
You have a.
and certainly not
presentation-
8 o'clock.
You have a presentation on
The
what?
negotiated time period was 30 minutes.
No, there was not.
Oh, did you have a bet?
No, we sure did not.
Yeah, we did.
Mr. Hanlon, I think we need to talk about.
Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motioned by Council
Councilman
Dane,
Hershey, keep forgetting my name.
seconded by Councilor Hershey. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.